All right, folks. So exam one, there are a total of 190 questions on the exam. You will get 60 of them, right? Um, it'll there's 62 minutes that will be allowed for the exam. So the exam is broken down like this. There's 15% of the exam comes from the introduction. So that includes phylogeny, that includes the types of microorganisms, the characteristics that these microorganisms have that we classify them by with. That's taxonomy. That's the individuals who, the scientists who started the science, um, and that's talking about all those things we did for that introduction. So about a lecture and a half. 10% of the exams will be tools. That's morphology. That's how we differentiate microorganisms, and then also that is staining, right? Um, and you should be able to tell the difference between a simple and negative, a gram stain, um, what they mean, and what is the difference between a differential, simple, and negative stain, those kind of things. The most important section and what we spent most time with was a prokaryotic, eukaryotic structure and function. 41% of the exam, so almost half the exam will come from prokaryotic structure and functions. All right, that's a total of 25 questions for the exam is located around prokaryotic structure and function. And then 34% of the exam, right? So 20 questions will come from cellular respiration. That includes the chemistry, that includes the valences and reduction and oxidation, and how many FADH2s are produced in the citric acid cycle, all those kinds of things we talked about today. Okay. Um, what questions do you have concerning the exam? Yes, Nelda?
You stated that there's 60 multiple choice, so is there no written
No
area in
written, no written, no written, no written. It's just all multiple choice. Okay, Nelda?
Yes, thank you. And let me
Okay.
ask you, and you probably will discuss this as we get further on the week, closer towards the lab. Is the lab similar, or is these?
Nope, the lab is written. Everything is written
Okay,
for the first one.
okay.
So
Thank you.
it's like so some of you haven't been in a classroom, but yeah, I'll get close when we on Wednesday after we get done and we have the review for the practical. I've already kind of showed people that because James was nervous earlier, and so I kind of opened up one of the practice practicals, and kind of we went through it already to alleviate some of the anxiety around the exam about around the practical. So let's not think about the practical right now because it's next Monday. Let's think about what's coming up Wednesday, right? So let's think about the lecture exam. 60 multiple choice questions, 62 minutes. So that makes up 80% of the exam. The other 20% comes from your outline that you're going to turn into me. It's due Wednesday. I'll take it now if you have it. And it'll be graded, and so I'll read it and I'll look through it. I'll give you feedback on it, but that's worth 20 up to 20 points, right? So 80 points for the multiple choice, 20% for the outline. Okay? And the outline is done by group. Okay? Rand, I'm glad you could make it. Um, what other questions do you have? Is that it? Y'all don't have any other questions? I did send you the directions, right? And so the directions are telling you that you'll have 62 minutes, and then after 62 minutes, the system will auto submit. It'll tell me exactly how long you spent on every question. It'll tell me when you got done. And so let's just talk about the strategy of taking a multiple choice exam. I don't like multiple choice, but I don't really have another way to do this. I've tried to do essay questions and they didn't work out that great. I've tried to do take-home exams and they didn't work out as I wanted to. Um, so I think multiple choice is kind of the way that is the most fair for everybody, because the answer is right there. All you have to pick it out. You have to pick it out from that list. But my multiple choice questions sometimes will have up to 10 selections. So it makes you think about it. So there's a lot of critical thought in the questions. It's not just regurgitation of information. You're going to have to understand the information to answer some of the exam questions, right? Some of them will be very simple, like which of the following organisms are classified by the pigments they store? And the answer would be what? It'll be A, B, C, D, E, and it might be bacteria, algae, viruses, protozoans, molds, yeast, and you would select which one as the answer. No, not bacteria. Pigments that they store. What the pigments that they store? Algae. That's correct, Jackie. That's correct. Algae. Yeah, so so that's one thing. I want you all to read the question and then take a breath and then decide how you're going to answer it. Because if you read the question real fast and then just try to answer it, you might already be thinking about what the answer, what the question is asking, right? So don't do that. Don't give away points just because you're speeding through it. The strategy for taking this exam is you're going to be able to see all the questions at once, right? So what you need to do is you need to read the question, and if you know the answer, mark it down. But if you read the question like, I'm not sure, leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Go to the next one, right? And then go to the next one and then go to the next one, right? The only thing that you can have at the exam is you, nothing else. There should be no devices at all. I will see trends if those things are happening, right? So please don't do that. So go through the 60 questions and answer the ones you know, right? 62 minutes, it's timed. If you try to do something unethical, you're not going to finish, right? And group chats aren't going to work because James will have a different number one question than Nelda will, than Mercy will, than Lucia will. Everybody's going to have a different exam. It's 190 factorial. Some of you might have the same question somewhere on the test, but it's not going to be in the same order, right? So it's really a test of your understanding of the material. Okay. Any questions? I know, Mercy. So what I recommend is, so nobody will do this, but this is what I would do is I would have studied hard already, and then I would study hard tonight. Tomorrow I would review, but I would go to bed early and get up on Wednesday morning, have breakfast, and then you'll get an email from me saying the exam is open. The exam will open at 9 o'clock. You will have till 9:20 to get into the exam, and after that it's going to close. If you don't get into the exam by 9:20, you just have to take the makeup, the final to replace it, right? So it's not fair for somebody to be cramming at the last minute and everybody else taking the exam, and then somebody starts at 9:30. 9:20 is the cutoff. That's 20 minutes to join the exam from 9 o'clock to 9:20, and that's enough time, right? If you start at 9:21, you're not going to be able to get in the exam. So be sure that you are ready to go, that you have everything ready to go. That's why I wanted you all to test Respondus Lockdown Browser, and 6 of you decided not to for whatever reason. So, now if you have a problem on test day, you're not going to know until, and then you're going to take up time during the test trying to get into the exam, and that's not good, right? Thank you for those of you who did the practice test, right? And you've been rewarded with 3 points as an extra credit. Okay. What was that now? I missed it. After the, yeah, So Jackie, I sent you guys the directions. At the very last sentence on that is I will send you guys an email about 8:55 in the morning. It will say exam is open. You'll have 62 minutes to take the exam. You may start anytime. You must get into the exam by 9:20, and our lecture will begin at 10:25 or something like that, right? And so then we'll have lecture at 10:25. Okay. You will be able to look at the exam if you finish early, but if you don't finish in time, you won't be able to see any of the responses. So you'll have to set up office hours for me to see your exam. Okay. That doesn't mean you don't get to see your exam. That just means you won't see it. Most people finish the exam in 45 minutes, right? No, you'll get to see the grade, Nelda. I'm talking about I let you see what you put as an answer and what the correct answer is. Okay. But yeah, but your grades, you can see them for a little while, and then I will go in and I will change them to add the points. After I get the outlines, I will grade the outlines, and then I will put a grade on the outline, and I will add that plus extra credit to the multiple choice exam grade. And then I will say final grades are posted for exam 1, and then you'll be able to see what your final grade is. Okay? Anybody else have questions? Yes, Nelda?
Sorry, I'm full of questions.
Okay. I have answers.
As far as I know that you mentioned a few people in the past will have issues trying to get online because of their internet connection. What is the fail-safe for that? I mean, I know that you said the time. Is that correct?
So the time is, so let's just say you're taking the exam, and then something happens to the Wi-Fi and it gets knocked out, right? So if your Wi-Fi was an intermittent, if it was intermittent, it just kind of stopped. Get back into the exam. The exam should let you start where you ended when you had your disconnect. Are you with me? So if, for instance, you're on number 20 and you get kicked out for whatever reason, right? That's different than if you leave. If you leave, the exam's over. You're done. So if you try to go to another site or you click and say submit, the exam's over, and the system will tell me what happened. The system will tell me person left the exam, or the system will tell me intermittently cut off, right? If it gets intermittently cut off, then you should be able to get back in immediately. If not, you need to call me right then and there and tell me, Pro V, I got kicked out and I can't get back in. I will go in real quick and I will check the history of what your exam is. And if I find that that you're telling me exact truth, you got kicked out, I don't have another recourse except you'll have to start over, and it'll be a different exam. Okay? So I can't go back and recreate the exam that was created for you because the system creates the exam. Okay? Nelda?
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Well, okay, so I don't know where you live, Lucia, but you can go to an ACC campus, and you can take it on the ACC campus, and there won't be any problem. Like, I don't know where you live. I mean, if you are living in, I don't know, Pleasanton, that might not be a thing to do. But if you're living in Kyle, in Florence, I guess Round Rock is the closest one from there. Manor, if you live in Manor, you can go to see if you can go to the Elgin campus if you want, and you can go there, and if you are worried about being in that rural community, you can go to the Elgin campus, call them before, right? Because some of them might not let you in at 8 o'clock in the morning, but call them before and say, I need to take exam. I just need to be sure my Wi-Fi is working correctly. Can I come and sit in your library? And if they say yes, then you can do that, right? That's the way to do it. So you won't have to worry about that, right? So I'm not sure where Florence is, Nelda. Is that near the Round Rock camp? I don't know where that is. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where Florence is. So I mean, between Georgetown and oh my. Okay, no, that's not a good thing. So Nelda, I'll pray for you and make sure. But I mean, don't worry, guys. If something happens, we'll just figure out a way to. I mean, if something happens and it's not, it's not your fault. We will figure out a way to get you to take the exam, even if I have to meet you at the Round Rock campus and give you a handwritten exam, right? Because I will do that. So yeah, okay. So I've been doing this now for over a year. I've had very few issues. Um, I've had very few issues. I'm the one person who had issues, who got kicked out 3 times. Um, we just called it quits that day. And then she went to one of the ACC campuses and I let her take it on a different day. So I'm going to be easy to work with you if you have trouble. So don't worry about that part. Okay? Don't let that add to the anxiety of taking the exam. So worry about the content. Okay? So the practice one examipu is it was just there. Is that the one that has like definitions and things like that? Rosa?
Yeah, it's like
Okay, so
identify and
that's a really old exam that I used to do like years ago. But it's the same material, it's just different. It's just formatted differently.
okay.
So if you can answer all those questions, you're good at those topics. That doesn't mean that you're going to be good at all the topics on the exam, because I covered everything, and I covered every topic that we talked about in quite a bit of detail, right? Okay.
All right.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else? Anybody else? Got any questions about the exam? James, you good? Usually you have questions. James, what's up?
Hey, I'm not really, I don't feel like I'm in too bad shape, but I feel like I put a bunch of wrong answers into this worksheet that you gave out today. So I just want to make
Okay.
sure that I have them all right before I actually use it to study.
How about if I fill it out and scan it and send it to y'all? How about that?
That would be super fantastic.
Okay, I'll do that. Hey, Rand, what's up?
You're talking about the review, right? So you're saying you're gonna
The
fill it out?
review. No, no, no. I'm talking
No.
about the I'm talking about the worksheet we did in lecture.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? If you're looking at the percentages of questions that are going to be on the exam, yeah. So, hey, Kayla, that was the way that was intended to work. But I don't have a problem filling this out. It'll take me a second to fill it out, but I will scan it and then I will send it to you all. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Hey, listen. If you had to spend time studying for the exam, where are you going to spend your time? Okay, but if you're looking at the percentages of the questions, a study aid's good for
So
sure.
periodics and eukaryotic.
That's where you spend your time. You spend your time right here because that is a lot. That's 41% of the exam. And then if you add this down here, that is right there, 75% of the exam. That's where the exam's coming from, right? Yeah. So that's where you spend your time. This other stuff up here, you know, it's going to be things like name the individual that was responsible for implementing hand washing in hospital settings in order to cut down on the amount of infections. A, Samuel Wise, B, Pasteur, C, Cook, D, Nightingale, and E, Jenner. And the answer would be what? Nightingale. Yeah. So those are going to be those kinds of questions, right? It might also be something like, which of the infectious agents are composed only of proteins? A, viruses, B, algae, C, okay, Mercy, prions, very good. Yeah. Mercy's always ready for exams. She's a master at taking exams, that woman right there. Yeah. She, in a hard class in 1406, Mercy, I hope you don't get embarrassed by this, but I'm giving you accolades because you did so well. I think her average was a 96 on the exams, right? And this class is not that hard. hmm hmm Oh, come on, Mercy. Anyway, guys, look, this is not supposed to be hard, right? If you've been with me the whole time, you should be okay. And so remember, the most important piece of the course is our time together and lectures. That's where the exam is going to come from. If you go and you just go through the PowerPoints, that's just topic for me to talk about, because you know I talk about these things in a lot more detail than what's on that PowerPoint, right? So the lectures are where the exam will come from. I'm not going to go to a book and pick out some weird question from a book, right? This is stuff that we've done that you need to understand in order to answer the questions, right? And so it's some of the things you'll have to think about. Okay? I want you all to do well. If everybody makes an A in the course, I'm really happy, right? And if you don't do as well, I don't really care, because it's a learning process. Do better on the second one, and you can always replace that first one with the optional final. Okay? So there should be, and I know you're not going to do this, and I know you're going to put pressure on yourself, but there shouldn't be any pressure on this one, right? Because you know that if you don't do as well, then you have that optional final to make it up with. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be ready for it, right? Yes, Rand. Yes, ma'am. You're on mute, Rand, if you're talking.
Oh, I have a question. It's kind of out of this, but do you go with like a hardcore, like tricky questions, or are you kind of like how is the questions you go for?
I don't believe in tricky questions. Why? I mean, that's just silly. Why would you do a tricky question? I'm not trying to trick you, right? But some of the questions are written in a manner that you have to employ critical thought. So some of y'all might think they're tricky, but they're not. You just have to look and read the material and then decide. You have to decide what's the best answer, right? But I don't do tricky. At least I don't try to do tricky. That's not my intent. My intent is not to make you fail. My intent is to test your knowledge and understanding, right? And it's not memorization. It is application, right? You don't get to go into a patient's room and say, oh my God, my patient is hypovolemic and is hypertensive. What do? You don't get to go, you don't get down to go down a multiple choice list of what to do, right? You got to know what to do. That's critical thought, right? What am I going to do to save this patient's life, right? So yeah, that's what we're doing. Okay. Unfortunately, multiple choice is most of the exams in nursing are going to be multiple choice. And in the nursing program, all of the answers are correct, but one of them is more correct. And then you do checkoffs. Checkoffs are all application. Okay. So hopefully I'm getting you ready for that. Yep. Yep. Bloom's taxonomy, that upper analyzing, evaluating, those kinds of critiquing, those are the things that I will do. So I may show you an example of an organism and ask you, what group does this organism belong to, right? And then you'll have to tell me, right? But the answer's there. All you got to do is pick the correct one. So slow down, right? Some of you all are fast test takers, right? And so you read the question and think you know it. Take your time, right? But the other thing that you want to do, I mean, 62 minutes is an hour and 2 minutes. That's a long time, right? That's like sitting through The Bachelor. Actually, if I sit through The Bachelor, I might fall asleep because that's so boring. But, you know, that's a long time. So do answer the ones you know correct. Answer the ones you know for sure. And then go back. And you can have a piece of paper, right? And you can write every time you didn't answer a question, like maybe you didn't answer number 3, put a number 3 there. So that way you know which questions you have to go back and answer. And so then, you know, when you get done, when you get to number 60, and let's say there are 10 questions you didn't answer, but you have 20 minutes, that's a long time, right? Take your time, right? You don't get any extra points for finishing early, Mercy, right? But she'll finish early. But it's just, you don't, James, you don't get any extra points for finishing early. Okay, good. Take your time. Take your time, right? And the other thing is, do not leave anything not answered. It's multiple choice. If you leave it unanswered, it's automatically wrong. Guess and do an educated guess. Say, okay, it's not A, it's not C, it's not D, it's E. It's either B or C. And then I don't just any, mini, miny, mo. You know what? Pick one, right? So don't leave anything blank. And if you're at the very end, if there'll be a little timer, right? The little timer will tell you have 15 seconds and you have 3 questions left. Just pick them. Don't leave them blank. Just pick them, right? Don't leave anything blank because it'll auto submit. Okay. All right. What else? Are people missing? Why are they missing? I don't get it. All right. All right, I'm gonna rapid fire questions. I'm not gonna give you multiple choice answers, but I'm just gonna rapid fire questions and you guys can answer them, okay? And we're just gonna do maybe 5 from each area. We'll do 5 for introduction. We'll do 5 from tools. We'll do 5 from prokaryotic, eukaryotic structure and function. And then we'll do 5 from the chemistry part. And I'm gonna stop recording here because I want to reward people who come to class, but because these are going to be answers that are on the these are going to be questions that are on the exam. So if you come to class, you're rewarded. If you don't come to class, you don't get to participate in this part. Okay. So I'm going to turn off the recording. Now that doesn't stop you all from recording me, right? So if you want to record me, I don't have a problem.